All right, I'm just making sure that my stream switched over. I'm just checking Facebook to make sure that this is following along, and then I'll introduce myself. Still waiting. This is the weird part
No
about
worries.
doing live shows is you have to make sure that all the software is going. Okay, cool. It's working.
Is
All right. Hi, everyone.
Okay.
I'm Cassie, Elle, and you were watching Crowd Chat, not on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We are watching this on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time because last episode was super glitchy, so we're do-over. Today we have Jason Micelli.
Micelli.
All right. I'm like, wait, he told me last time, and did I just pronounce it incorrectly? He is the publisher of Dungeon Drop, and I'm going to first explain a little bit about the game, or actually I'll let Jason explain a little bit about the game while we take a look at it on Kickstarter, but then I'm going to talk about its connection to the Game Crafter, and we'll go to the Game Crafter and take a look at some stuff. All right, Jason, do you want to tell us a little bit about Dungeon Drop, how you found it, and we'll take a look at the Kickstarter, see how it's going.
Sure. Maybe I'll quickly explain what it is. The name actually says it. You basically are going to drop a dungeon onto your table. And the way you do that is there's a pile of cubes that make up the dungeon. And you pick up this pile of cubes in your hands and you drop them from about a foot over the table. And they represent the three pillars for an angular area. All the cubes that are within that triangular area are essentially the loot and the monsters within that particular room or that space of the dungeon. And so the game is all about kind of finding these different rooms, these different orientations of cubes in the dungeon, and it's a dungeon crawler. So you're going to be looting, you're going to be fighting off goblins and dragons and all that fun stuff. So that's Dungeon Drop in a nutshell. And so we'll go from there.
How many components is in there? How many cubes and cards is this?
There's actually 82 cubes in the base game. There's 82 cubes and 6 dice, which dice are realistically just cubes with special faces. So 86 total. And again, different colors. So there's goblins, there's trolls, there's a dragon, there's 3 different colored gems, there's gold pieces, and then the dice are actually treasure chests.
Oh, okay.
And then to case, you have to find these keys. So the treasure chests are orange dice, and the keys are orange cubes.
Oh.
If you have a key and a chest, you've paired them up, and now that treasure chest die to see how much gold or whatever was inside it.
That's fun. Oh, that's so cute.
The whole thing.
So I want to have you tell me how this. I know that Dungeon Drop relates to the Game Crafter through a contest, but it wasn't a contest you were running. So there was a contest. Let me see if I can go to the Game Crafter's page here and not lose my. Yeah, I'm going to, let's see, we're at the Game Crafter website. Sorry, I had this loaded. Going to the contests. I just want to pull it up and show everyone that it's quite different, the submission, compared to what it looks like now. I mean, the game itself looks like it's the same, but it's much more attractive now. Let's just say that.
To be style artwork that's it's awesome, really fun looking, but it was all to just add a little bit of flair around that core mechanic of those game pieces that you're dropping on the table. So we certainly have the same magical core was there from the contest entry. And then we just wrapped a little bit more gloss around the edges.
All right, I found it, so I'm going to pull it up. So, as a publisher, when you saw this, what were you thinking? I need to pick this up. What about it made you think I need to pick this up? Because was this the winner of the contest? I believe it was. Mm-hmm.
About this contest, game pieces only. Every contest constrains the design concepts in some manner, right? They always, you have to design a game that's under a certain dollar amount and with only these types of components or those types of components, or this type of a theme, or whatever. All design contests constrain something. Well, this one constrained the very thing that makes the Game Crafter special, which is all these custom printed components, custom cards and boards and tokens. Yeah. Well, you couldn't use any of that. All you could use were these physical pieces that were in their store. So I was intrigued from the beginning, like what kind of games could come out of this. And so I saw this one, and I was following it in those last few days, and then I was thrilled to see this one win. What drew me to it? It's the exact mechanic that I described to you earlier. And what was running through my brain was, I think that is potentially a genre buster mechanic. Definitely. Like that. There are some games that have a drop. Like there's a game called Drop It, and some other games that are kind of more like party games that you'd find in Target, but for a hobbyist game market, or a game that kind of spans from a casual gamer to the hobby game market, I felt that this was an earth-shattering idea, that this really could spawn an entire line of games. And we had to prove it out, obviously, with the first one, and so far, I think we're proving it out pretty well. I was going to say, let's take a look at how many backers the campaign has, because it's pretty phenomenal. Right now it's at 4,513 backers, which is crazy. That's so many people. Like, imagine, that's like an entire convention. An entire convention is backing the game, which is pretty insane. With 11 days left, too, and the fight. Yeah, and the number of people that have clicked on the campaign to remind me, they basically get an email in the last 4 hours. And that number's almost double the number. It's upset. I don't even know what to do with these numbers. I don't even know how to predict at this point, because it's just going so stupidly well, and obviously that's testament to Scott and the design that he made, and everything that we've done over the last year to bring it to this point.
What is, because you found this through a contest? What I know, you actually have a Game Crafter contest running right now, is because you found such a great game through a contest the reason you decided to host your own?
Actually, no. So the timing is a little interesting. We actually started our contest on the Game Crafter before the Game Pieces Only Challenge. So it was actually run in 2018. We started it, I don't actually know when. I think May we kicked off our challenge. And then it actually ended. It's not open right now. Our contest ended in October or November, and then we chose the finalists by the end of the year.
Right.
So that contest, the Phase Shift Dimensions Challenge, was there to find games. The whole point of this Dimensions was to find games that push some kind of a dimensional boundary. What does that mean? Well, physical dimensions is one of the dimension, right? Like, most board games are flat.
Yeah.
They're a board, and they're cards, and they're tokens that are all inherently flat. And then at most, what you sometimes have are little pawns or meeples or something, and that adds a little bit of a three-dimensional element. Well, I like games that go really three-dimensional and use all the space above the table. And that's just one dimension, right? How can you push the dimension of time? How can you push the dimension of environment? Like, can we have a game that we're playing in the living room simultaneously, another group of people that's playing the same game is in another room, and you have 2 rooms active at the same time, and then maybe come together to see, maybe we're building our own kind of robot in separate rooms, and we come together and battle those robots, through game mechanics. These are all just crazy ideas, but that's what the Dimensions Challenge is all about. This game, Dungeon Drop, it fits that contest to a T. It pushes the boundaries of a spatial element. We're using the three-dimensional space. Not that it was in our contest, but it would have been a perfect contender in our contest.
Definitely. That's pretty cool. Have you been looking at any of the other contests to just see if they would fit your, like, do you check out the Game Crafter contest now that?
Always, yeah.
Okay.
The reality is, so there were a couple winners from our contest that we would love to see in the phase shift line someday. There are other designs of our own that we've already kind of started to pull together for phase shift, but time is an element that we can't ignore, and,
Right.
and the amount of resources that we have, the amount of bandwidth we have. So we have to be very thoughtful in our decision making. Candidly, the way this game is going and the campaign that we have right now, chances are we're going to be focused on something else in the dungeon drop ecosystem for our next game. So we may, everything pivots, and being agile always. So based on where this campaign has come to date, we've definitely made some more interesting choices of recent than previous.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun to see dungeon drop with other themes, like what if you're exploring the ocean, or you're in space and you got to fly around these asteroids, and
you got it.
Oh my gosh, this is great. So before I switch gears, because I wanted to talk, this is going to be a quick little episode. Unfortunately, we weren't, with my technology being what it is, we weren't able to have the designer Jason on the show this time, even though he was on.
Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're Jason.
Scott.
Yes, thank you. Scott wasn't able to be on because last time he was, but we had, like the weird stuff going on. So before I switch gears to talking a little bit about some of the Game Crafter contest stuff that's going on right now, I wanted to know if there's anything about Dungeon Drop. Actually, there is one thing I was hoping you would bring up that's connected to the Game Crafter, and that's the new custom thing you've got going on.
The Tinkerer's Toolkit.
Let me go ahead and go to that. Go ahead, you talk. I'm going to go to the update.
The point being, this is for people who want to add their own races or classes into Dungeon Drop, and maybe have a professionally printed copy through the Game Crafter that's sent to them. So they can just create, it's like a modder's kit, like in the digital world. People like to mod their games and try out different things. And throughout the course of this campaign, we've run a bunch of different polls for, a community-driven class, a community-driven race, effects for these potions, which are or not potions, but these purple cubes that could be potions or could be something else. And there's a bunch of effects that people loved, but we only could choose one.
Right.
So because there's only so much, but all those other ones, people are like, well, can we still make use of them somehow? And the answer is yes. You can add that to your own copy of the game. We're going to give you templates. They're going to be perfectly sized. You're going to have all of our nice graphics. The backs will be identical, so that when you print a copy from the Game Crafter of a class or a race or a quest or something like that, it's going to have the same back as the cards that come in your box, so that you can shuffle them all together. It's going to look exactly the same. We actually are paying our manufacturer extra to custom build a mold for the cards that is exactly dimensionally accurate to the Game Crafter. We did this on purpose because of this stretch goal. So the corner radius is 0.125 inches. The cards are exactly 88.9 millimeters. And, they were asking, they said, well, we have a mold for 89 millimeters. Why wouldn't you want to use our mold? It's exactly 89 millimeters. And I said, because I need 88.9. Why do you need that? Well, because that's what the Game Crafter uses. That's exactly 3.5 inches.
I only know that.
And so,
some card sizing recently.
Yeah. We wanted to do that because this is something that we feel could really add to the ongoing kind of the lifespan of the game, keep this community engagement thriving, see people come up with some awesome ideas. They're going to, there's going to be a bunch of not awesome ideas as well, and that's fine. Everyone can do their own thing, but with the way the Game Crafter has the, the game upgrades shop, people could upload their designs. If it's a really good idea, good design, they can put them in the game upgrade shop. And then other people who are interested, they can download, basically buy a pack and immediately have the Game Crafter print and send them a copy. So it can create this sharing, ecosystem, which is awesome. Are they going to
be just like because I'm familiar with the way the Game Crafter has their setup. Is it going to be kind of like a game that you go in and you buy, or do you know how it's going to be set up so people who are considering backing might be able to know what to anticipate?
Let me make sure I'm understanding your question correctly. So
say I'm just a normal person that's not familiar with the Game Crafter,
and
I want to do something custom. What can I expect to see when I go to the Game Crafter? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want to get. Sparkly blue cubes. How do I?
Sure. Well, I don't think the Game Crafter has a lot of sparkly blue cubes, but whatever types of cubes they have. So someone who's more of a tinkerer would create this alternate module. We'll call it a module for now. And maybe it has a class and it's got 2 quests and it's going to make use of the new, the Game Crafter just launched their 12 millimeter tan die. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the same size as the dragon in our game. So maybe that's some desert lizard beast monster. So they could come up with rules for the desert lizard beast and say that they're going to include a copy of that 12 millimeter tan cube in this pack, in this module. So then they upload the class, the races, the quest, whatever goes with it from cards perspective, and then they say I want one of these cubes and maybe 2 other cubes, whatever. And then they wrap it all up and they say this is my module called Equilibrium. Like give it a name. And now anyone else in the world can go to the Game Crafter and just say, I want to buy one of those. That sounds cool.
That's so cool. So that is really opening up to not just being creative for yourself, but letting others expand upon your creativity. Yeah.
Exactly. And we said what we may do if it goes, we'll see how things go. We may actually build a process. Flag the ones that we think are really special, really balanced, well thought out, and we'll possibly put a stamp of approval on it and call it a Phase Shift official, fan-made module. Cool. Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, but just to let the community go wild with this because
it is
flexible to just add another color cube, another size. It doesn't even have to be a cube. It could be some other shape of object that's used in the game in some way. We actually have an alternate game mode right now that we're playing with called Rescue Something. Like basically you take extra meeples and you drop them in the dungeon at the beginning of the game. And they're spread out in the dungeon. It's like they're characters who previously went in and got trapped. And now the players want to try to rescue as many of them as possible as part of their dungeon romping process. And at the end of the game, whoever rescued the most people gets some extra points. And while you have one of those rescued people, you get their ability. It's just an alternate game mode, and it's just a way to use another type of component, these meeples that you just drop in, and you draw a race card that represents it. So there's so many things you can do with this game.
That's so fun. When you're looking at it, the way I am about games is when I see a game, I want to just play it in its core way. I feel weird about adding house rules because I'm like, well, that's not how the designer intended it to be. So I think it is cool that this game offers... there's no change really to the game. You're just adding more flavor and making it more of your own thing. How does Scott feel about like all of these things that you're adding to it?
Oh, he's elated. We all are. We're just because none of us would have predicted this level. Like we expected the game to do well. We put a lot of work in marketing and advertising and certainly the artwork for the game, the development. We felt really confident that we were going to fund and do well. But was not, it was way earlier than what we have achieved here is light years beyond. So yeah, he's elated. We're actually spending the entire day together tomorrow going through a bunch of the designs that came out of the community that we're going to be doing full play testing and talking about some of these alternate game modes and kind of refining our last week of the campaign and plans that we have for that. So there's some great stuff still coming, he's
11 days, huh? Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take a peek while we're talking and see how. Where is it? Everyone's just watching me click on things. 4,513 backers. That's so crazy. It just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's all the questions that I had for you about Dungeon Drop. I mean, I think we covered a lot about it. Unfortunately, again, we couldn't have the designer on, but we did get to talk to our publisher, and we got a lot of questions answered. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up before I tell everybody about the contest the Game Crafter has going on?
No, I think that's great. I mean, we're long time huge fans of the Game Crafter. This game wouldn't exist without the contest that was created to, like I said, kind of remove the very thing that makes the Game Crafter what it is. So that was an intriguing thing right from the beginning, and I'm just thrilled that it existed, because this type of a mechanic would never have surfaced if it wasn't for a design contest like that. So we're thrilled that it happened, and we love working with the Game Crafter.
Well, we love working with you too. And this, I'm really excited about the Tinker Toolkit. I think that's going to be super cool. All right, let's see. As long as everyone can hear me, I'm just going to show everyone real quick before we say goodbye to Jason, the contest that we have. If you go to the Game Crafter's website and you go to Community here, you can click on the contests, and you can see here we have a couple of contests going on. I am actually the judge for the Holiday Design Contest, so I'm in the finals right now. We have the Simple Elegance Contest that has its voting available right now, so if you want to click on that, you can see there's quite a few entries in here that could use your vote. Just waiting for this. 93 right now is what it's at, so it's quite a large number. And we still actually have a contest that's open right now. The Social Deduction Challenge is open. If you want to submit a social deduction game to the contest, that is still available. And you have until August 12th, so there's still some time for that. Let me go ahead and switch back to my face. And Jason, thank you everybody for watching. This was a much better episode. Oh, like you've got the box. Oh, it's so cute.
Cubicle box.
I love it. Oh my gosh, is that the size that it's going to be after manufacturing?
3 dimensions, but it's a cubicle box, very intentionally, because the game is all about these cubes.
Right.
And that was another thing that we think just added to the charm, was this idea of a cubicle. It's like, why hasn't anyone done a cubicle box?
No, that's super cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again. And sorry about last time, everybody, but I think this was a much better episode with little to no glitching. So,
good.
Yes, agreed. All right. I am going to call it a night. Thank you so much again for coming on the show, Jason, and let Scott know that we missed him. And
will do.
Everyone that watched Crowd Chat, thanks for coming and watching, and I'll see you in a couple of days, Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. Bye.
Bye-bye.